Palantir keeps bringing in millions in deals and a new partnership with a seasoning of controversy this week, if you can call it that, and many more. Now, looking at the stock first, Palantir closed out the week in the mid $23 range. This week, Palantir did make a run at the 24s, but didn't quite hold it, so we'll see what happens next week. Now, Palantir started off announcing a partnership with the Morrison Group out in the UK, trying to tackle tech recruiting. So the big thing here with this solution is trying to improve the efficiency and workflow around bringing in talent to an organization. Now, for clients, this is a huge investment when hiring a tech person because of the whole cost of not only just finding someone, but also vetting them and eventually hoping the decision to bring them on and then also retaining them turns out right. For the solution being built out with Palantir, these goals are not out of the ordinary, but trying to leverage AI with real-time data and industry trends is crucial to getting the edge when trying to attract and interview and eventually hire the right people at the right place at also the right time, which can be very costly or on the flip side, immensely valuable for companies. So great on Palantir getting another partnership, and no doubt this can be scaled to so many more industries. Next, we got a couple new deals on the Federal Contracting Procurement website. First, we saw the deal with the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, for $11 million. But note, we've only got an action obligation for $5.5 million at the moment, so this is for 1 year and will probably require some metrics to be hit to recognize the full value. Then a bit bigger, we got Palantir's other huge industry of healthcare, with a $19.8 million National Institute of Health, or NIH, deal for 2 years. Being in healthcare, this continues to compound on the work that Palantir has been building up since the pandemic, and as we've seen with so many other partnerships like Tampa Bay General, and of course they recently touted that a lot last week. Now, Palantir continues to show up for the United States government and positively shows how they have sticking power with these clients and hopefully more ever-expanding deals later on. Then, Palantir gets a huge win in the United States Veterans Affairs Tech Sprint Contest. Now, this has been a contest known about for the past 8 or 9 months, where they got together 200 applications to basically brainstorm and build out the best solutions to try to improve physician burnout. So a few months back, Palantir did make it to the top 25 after some filtering, and eventually just this week, Palantir dropped a demo of their solution and tweeted it out, so you can check it out on YouTube where it's fully posted at around 10 minutes. But the cool thing is that Palantir puts their attention on these quote-unquote small prizes of only around $1 million, but for these contests, really trying to come up with new solutions. It shows the innovative and competitive nature of Palantir trying to contribute to their existing clients. And yes, this is already documented in blog posts that Palantir has helped the VA and works with them. So I think just showing face already that you're out there to continue solving their other ancillary problems means that you're ready to take on more contracts. So optimistically, this leads to official deals with a bit of more revenue, but that's just my speculation. Now, for the insider transactions this week, there were a bunch from some of the smaller position holding directors. Now, I went through each one of them in the daily video, but the TLDR is that we got a bunch of RSUs vested and awarded to these directors, and technically that is a contributor to dilution. Some sold shares immediately, while others just got the new shares added to their existing positions. Now, the big thing for me is that the selling is tied to the typical trading plan explanation of reasons we've always seen, and even though a couple other directors did not sell, it doesn't mean that they won't continue their plan later on. So the other big note is that nominally, these are not huge amounts of shares in comparison to the whole float of around 12.6 thousand shares per director. So I'll leave it up to you to think if this is acceptable or not, but we know it's not out of the ordinary to reward leadership at publicly traded companies with shares in order to align their performance and interests with shareholders, even if it does come at the expense of some dilution. Now, it's probably a bigger conversation when it comes to Carp, Sandcar, and Teal with whatever they do at their insider transactions, but we'll keep an eye out for those when they do come around. Then, we got some renewed protests out in the UK against Palantir's Federated Data Platform deal with the NHS. Now, it took place during an NHS Expo and during one of Palantir's speaker sessions. Essentially, what caught the most attention was allegedly there was an interruption during the speaking where security escorted them out and was also trying to remove a hijab-wearing person who noted that they were not part of the group. Now, the article clearly tries to paint this as trying to remove this person too because of their hijab, whereas the quote provided were the cookie cutter of an incident happened, someone got upset, and we're looking into it. So I'll leave it up to you to decide, or we'll see when Slash if more information comes out. But the obvious motivation of the narrative is to paint them removing this person solely because of their religious attire, where we don't know clearly the association between the individuals erupting, as well as the person and how that incident actually played out. Then we've got Alex Karp getting awarded as the Best Business Executive of the Year by BENS. Now, Palantir posted his speech essentially being very gracious for his acceptance of the award and talking about the continued mission of Palantir in helping out in national security matters, as well as doing their best to continue to serve the women and men in the armed forces through their technological products. Now, of course, he says some more unfiltered views with like being glad about killing adversaries, but in reality of Palantir's mission, it makes sense considering it's our people or yours in an armed conflict. You'll see plenty of comments on the supporters and naysayers, but that goes with anything this polarizing. Now, the significance of this award is great for recognizing the work Palantir does in the defense industry, especially for the United States, and clearly shows that Palantir is being seen by all parts of the players who are participating in national security matters. So great job on Palantir. Now, a huge update for those who are hungry for showing their support for Palantir is that their merch store is finally up and running. They released 3 different colored hats named after the domains of space, air, and sea. Now, this has been hinted at all over X from Palantir employees, noting their release soon. And with these being neutral colors and a limited amount of merch, shows that Palantir is making sure they don't get too deep into just dropping a bunch of Palantir branded clothing. So full disclosure, I bought myself one of each color, and yes, I personally think it's pretty expensive and a pretty penny at $35 each, but one thing is that I got free shipping on the item, so I don't have to worry about the extra cost, although this may vary depending where you are, considering I'm getting these out sent to Chicago. It's still not known how many they're producing and if they would be expanding this out later on to other types of clothing. I'd imagine this is reliant on demand, but even if small, it's still kind of funny thinking I'm technically contributing to the revenue of Palantir. Although as a shareholder, I strictly only want them to put bare minimum effort, time, and resources into this versus any other activity that can lead to any improvement of their main business. But I'll keep an eye out for an update to the store, as well as putting a new community post when my 3 hats arrive later on. Then Palantir released a blog post where we finally get a customer perspective from the FedStar product that Palantir has touted in previous pieces before. The focus is on Manifest, a cybersecurity company who decided to go with Palantir's white glove service in obtaining FedRAMP accreditation because of a Homeland Security contract they recently won. They basically had to choose the go about it yourself route, costing you over $1 million in a year, trying to obtain this clearance yourself, or going with Palantir's FedStart, which is built on top of Apollo to allow your SaaS to run on an already cleared FedRAMP or IL5 basis through Palantir. Now, of course, this means you lose that sense of control owning it all for yourself and relying on Palantir, essentially forever unless you decide to get clearance later on yourself. But the trade-offs of quickly getting this in months from a tried and true company that's gone through it before with the strongest DoD relationships versus spending the time and money yourselves to do it without really knowing what it entails fully seems pretty obvious to me which one you should choose. But give it a read when you have a chance. And Friday after hours, we got 2 more contracts from the US government for an extra $31 million, and this was surprising. The first one being for the Air Force for around $21.7 million, only over 4 months, and the second being $9.2 million for the Space Command and Control System and partners over only 3 months. So Palantir continues to showcase their importance to the US military, and the solutions they have built out for them are super sticky and necessary for them to operate, at least from the evidence of these short-term contracts. Now, for a longer-term solution to arise over time, we'll see, but even if this is a bridge, I think being able to win tens of millions in revenue in basically a quarter speaks volumes on the amount of necessity Palantir has become. Now, you can see that as a good or bad thing depending on who you look at it and from whose perspective, but at the very least, the products are working. So over time, we hope to see more of these, but obviously at a bigger scale, but it shows how Palantir really continues to pound on the US government business, even if all the focus and eyes are on US commercial right now. But what are your thoughts though on the busy week below, and I'll see you in the next video.